heard a million times from our parents and grandparents who claim that the way we use technology is the root cause of all of our problems. It's so annoying, but they're right. Social media platforms have a lot to answer for, from their impact on body image and mental health to children's safety. But today, I want to focus on something that's increasingly destructive: social media's impact in fueling a more polarized world. Like so many other active social media users, have felt the incredibly powerful pressure to pick a side on every issue of the day. Be it COVID masks, vaccines, or immigration, you must publicly declare your definitive and unchangeable opinion. This terrifying polarization was really brought into sharp focus for me during the ongoing war between Israel and Palestine. After October 7th, I wanted to share something. I wanted to show my disgust at the loss of lives, the disregard for human rights, these grotesque images of children in pools of blood, dead families, buildings in ruins. Here I am, eating pizza in the sun, brushing my teeth or walking to class, while on the other side of the Mediterranean, tens of thousands of people are being killed. Silence was not an option. My first instinct was to share, comment, repost, to let the world know that I was outraged. This is where I went wrong. This is where we're all going wrong, because this is exactly what social media algorithms want us to do. We live in an online world that profits off of our instant clicks, rapid reshares, and thoughtless reactions. But the best way to spark those reactions is hatred. So that's what social media platforms promote, at a very high cost: increased radicalization and polarization. Governments must legislate Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. They were created by people, so they can be recreated, transformed into something more constructive, or at the very least, more neutral. Because don't forget, that's how they started, before the dreaded like button and the rise of the algorithms. Effective legislation, though, would be a long and hard journey. But there's something that all of you here can do to help combat polarization. Take your time. Growing up, when I used to get upset, my parents would tell me to stop and count to 10 to avoid reacting purely out of anger. It sounds so simple and almost childish, but I urge you to do exactly the same thing before posting a TikTok or reposting a story to Instagram. Because instantaneous, rage-fueled reactions are only good for the bank balances of giant social media companies. So find what breaks that cycle for you. Find what puts you in a more mindful state, so it's not your most triggered, angry self responding, but it's your most thoughtful and constructive self. It took October 7th and its awful and divisive aftermath for me to wake up to the realization that we're all being manipulated by social media platforms for profit, not to contribute to the peace we want. So now, when I'm scrolling and I feel enraged, instead of reacting immediately, I pause, turn off my phone, and take my time. Social media is not the source of our divisions, but its algorithms have been designed to accentuate them. They've been brilliantly engineered to make us feel like we have control. Control over our stream of information, control over who sees our posts, and even control over the impact that our posts may have, when in reality, we do not. It was internet activist Eli who was the first to coin the term filter bubbles. As its name suggests, the technologies mediate the information we consume and filter us into bubbles or communities with like-minded people. And within these bubbles, our opinions are validated and reinforced, ultimately leading, he argues, to intellectual isolation and societal division. As Pariser explains, algorithms learn from our clicks and tailor our feeds to our taste. It's like a parent giving its child only sugar. It doesn't end well. And while associating with people who have similar interests and beliefs is not inherently dangerous, it does become perilous when that's all that we do. If we let algorithms rule over our lives and don't have conversations with people with opposing views, we create ignorant views. We become very connected to the people and things that we want to hear, but very disconnected to the rest and reality. It has always taken effort to find reliable sources. There have always been biased voices in newspapers, televisions, and radios. But traditional media was largely based in an attempt to root out the facts. Social media is entirely different. We do not choose the information that we consume, as it's already pre-chosen and targeted for us by algorithms. Indeed, the major social media platforms have now gone even further and deliberately withhold mainstream news sources. The result of this is a free-for-all of rumor, misinformation, and exaggeration. This is really worrying, as people are increasingly losing trust in mainstream media and are resorting to other sources, primarily social media. 1/3 of Americans under 30 now get their source from TikTok. To those of you who don't have TikTok, and also to those of you who do, this might sound terrifying, and it should. Max Fisher, in his book, The Chaos Machine, really shows and brings to light how algorithms love polarization. By quoting Facebook's very own researchers as saying that our algorithms exploit the human brain's attraction to divisiveness to gain user attention and increase platform time. The nuanced middle ground and constructive ideas get lost as users are pushed to one pole or another, towards Israel is always right, or Israel is always wrong, towards authoritarian rabble-rousers like Trump and Bolsonaro. I have seen this unfold on my social media, from world events to what it means to be a teenage boy. I've watched my friends be driven into the misogynistic arms of Andrew Tate, driven step by step, YouTube video by YouTube video, to the extreme. Still not convinced? David Santola from the Annenberg School for Communication in the US conducted 2 fascinating experiments where he showed that better, less polarized outcomes are possible by orchestrating social media's interactions in different ways. In one, he found that both Democrats and Republicans interpreted climate change data much more accurately after having exchanged on anonymous social media platforms, showing that tuning out of your echo chambers really does make a difference. And in the second, more surprising experiment, he kept Democrats and Republicans in small separate groups and picked the most divisive topics in the US, such as immigration and gun control. After analyzing everyone's individual opinions, researchers asked them to discuss the topics. And what they found was that after several rounds, these simulated echo chambers actually made them less divided. Everyone on all the groups, had come to more moderate positions. This all comes down to one thing: influencers. It's the difference between egalitarian and centralized networks. Because a key factor of an egalitarian network is its capacity to bring out new ideas from any area of the community that will then spread to all members. However, in a centralized network, these ideas are subject to filtering and blocking by a single powerful influencer. Think of the MAGA movement and Donald Trump. When that central figure is polarizing, and remember, that's who the algorithms will favor, then the entire network becomes more polarized. But this example shows that redesigned social media interactions can lead to new interactions. This is critical because social media is not inherently bad. Indeed, the platforms were not always this way. They used to be very neutral. It's just the current incarnations and bosses who run them can pocket more money out of polarization. We are the generation with the most access to information ever. But when I looked deeper and realized that we don't all access the same information, that algorithms make decisions for us and create subconscious biases and narrow our viewpoints, I felt violated and manipulated. Enough to come and talk to you guys today. Some of the world's richest men have successfully pulled the wool over our eyes. It seems and it appears as if we have democratic, equal access to information so we can all make educated choices. But true democracy calls for common facts and understanding, and for everybody to be able to see things from another's perspective. Yet as we are becoming more and more isolated in our own worlds, we're losing these core values. Freezer says that personalization filters serve as a kind of auto-propaganda. They indoctrinate us with our own ideas and blind us to the rest. In our constant quest to try and find the causes of our problems, it encourages us to develop an us versus them mentality. This paves the way to polarization and the rise of authoritarian populists like Viktor Orbán in Hungary or Javier Milei in Argentina. And in general, it brings more extremist political views. They make us, the public, feel heard, when really the only sound is the constant clinging of social media's cash cows. But let me be clear, I'm not asking you to delete all of your social media accounts. I'm not going to. Social media can be a powerful tool that we can use better. It has the power to uplift voices and communicate like nothing else we know. It can bring people together and be a vital space for those who have long been discriminated against. It can be a powerful voice for the powerless. Take the Arab Spring, Occupy Wall Street, or Fridays for Future. These movements all generated passion through social media platforms like Facebook, TikTok, or Twitter to mobilize change and drive new generations. We can still use these platforms to amplify our voices. We can still use them to speak up. Social media has challenged mainstream media's lack of interest in youth voices. In Gaza, there has been enormous amounts of polarizing posts and misinformation. But it's also been an incredible place for unknown voices to tell their stories from the front line. And these platforms have been priceless for youth pro-Palestinian voices that in the West when governments were cracking down on peaceful protests. But the positive potential of social media will be overwhelmed by polarization unless we all act. And I'm not saying that we can undermine capitalism or change the profit-making mentality of multi-billionaire owners of trillion-dollar tech companies. But all of you here can make a difference. The governing algorithms and people like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg don't care, so you must. And the key is to take your time. Because the world does not need your instant reaction. The world needs your best reaction. We don't need you to have the most amount of likes in the fastest time. We need to have maximum impact in the long term. So, here are my top 3 tips for you. Take time to pause and ask yourself the right questions. The most effective way to combat polarization and algorithms is to slow down. When you are sharing or posting, ask yourself, if it's going to help the situation at hand. Does it reflect your values? How is it going to make you feel in a week, in a month, in a year? And most importantly, how is it contributing to the world that you want to live in? The next is to take time to get informed and challenge everything. Every time you see a post, story, statistic, check it with reputable sites, but also search for reliable voices from the center of stories and from disadvantaged groups. Challenge everything. I cannot stress this enough. Go and look for opposite viewpoints. Go and look into other echo chambers. You never know, they might be onto something. And lastly, take time to be accountable. Everything that you say and post on social media should be something that you would defend in real life. Which also leads to me saying, take time to go offline. If you truly care about something, go and have those conversations with real people. Social media can be a powerful platform, but real change occurs offline. Posting thousands of black squares for Black Lives Matter mobilized support, but people taking to the streets drove change. So if you follow my tips and go actively look for opposite viewpoints, then you'll find that social media can be empowering and even a unifying platform. And that's what you can tell your parents next time they tell you to put your phone down. Thank you.